Hello and welcome to this episode of the Excalibur podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Brooks, where we have real people, real stories, and real progress. Today we have an esteemed guest, Coach Allan Rashid. He has been in law enforcement for over a decade and a half. He is a phenomenal person, a ultra marathon runner. He's the one that got me into ultra marathon, and he called me a little wuss for not actually doing it. So that's the ultimate way to motivate me. But a great brother, a great friend, and somebody who has molded me into being a better man. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be part of your production here with Excalibur.
Absolute pleasure, my brother. Absolute pleasure. Well, I know that you have one of the most interesting stories. You have navigated the world through a very different lens to most people and done honestly, some spectacular things. And I would like to start from the beginning, from where you started. What got you into law enforcement, firstly, and then we can progress from there.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Fort Myers, Florida. One of my good friends, Brian, his uncle was a retired Lee County Sheriff deputy. And we used to just put his leather gear on, ride around the neighborhood on our bicycles, uh, being the cops. And I don't know. I think that's what sparked my interest. And then, of course, I think just like any young boy, when a squad car goes by you and you're at a red light and it's just running lights and sirens going through the intersection, it's captivating. So fast forward, worked in restaurants for a long time. That paid my way through earning my master's degree. Uh, got divorced and decided to pursue what I always wanted, which was law enforcement. And I'll be honest with you, I don't regret it at all. It's an underpaid, underappreciated profession,
Yeah.
but the internal rewards I can't even begin to describe.
Awesome. Well, firstly, thank you so much for your service because you definitely are servicing the community around you, and I know that you're an integral part of the community over there in Tennessee where you're at, man. So you went through a divorce, and I'm pretty sure that was a catalyst for you going into law enforcement. How did you pick yourself up after going through that, sir? I know that's something that people don't want to touch on a lot, but for me, it's what shapes men. It's when you go through those tough times, you get to grow through them, and you become a better man on the other side. Which honestly, I could see you've it shaped you into an amazing man.
I appreciate that. Honestly, even beforehand, I think just like any young adult in their early 20s, um, I had a bit of a cockiness, almost to the point where someone would say arrogance. Um, Back in 1999, 2000 area, I was in the parking lot talking to some people, and a car swerved to hit me.
Wow.
Uh, Broke my leg between my right knee and right ankle. My foot was 180, surgery, things like that. Honestly, I think that was the catalyst that helped put perspective uh, in my life. Realize that the opportunities are minimal.
Mm,
Your life on this earth is up to God.
yes.
You have no control over that.
Yeah.
And during that time, one of my good friends, all of our friends were getting married. So, a friend of mine, we decided to get engaged, got married, and it was for the wrong reasons. Um, Long story short, should never happen. We should have stayed as friends.
Right.
Um, and that's hard.
Mm,
I've always gone through life to try my best not to hurt other people.
yeah.
And of course, filing for divorce was heartbreaking to that person. Um, you know, Thankfully, she's remarried, she has a child. Uh, I think her life is on track and where she's always wanted it to be, and I'm thankful for that. I know mine is finally. Um, so, I mean, if I could go back in time and change it, in some ways I'd like to, but in some ways I don't, because I think all those errors
Mm,
and failures have built me to who I am now. and I wouldn't want to jeopardize who I am now.
Definitely, definitely. Everything in your life is culminated to creating the man that you are right now, which means that it was perfect. It was there for a reason to teach you lessons. And there's no such thing as failure in my book. Fail is an acronym for first attempt in learning. And if we look at it from that perspective, you start to separate the emotion from it and rather look at what lessons you can learn. And the lessons are what have shaped you into being this amazing man because you've broken your foot and yet you still run
I
a
was never
death by
supposed to.
5K. A death by 5K. It is insane. Can we tell the viewers a little bit about the death by 5K? Because this is something that you established. I know we're going slightly off track, but this is something that you kind of brought into the awareness of me and countless other men.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I was never supposed to run again.
Yes.
With the leg injury, there is a disability to it. Um, I gained I approached almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
So when I decided to enter law enforcement, there was a lot of work that had to happen. A lot of weight had to be shredded and uh, ability to do a push-up, which I struggled with at that time. Um, so I actually hate running, but I do it because I don't know, there's a sense of accomplishment
Mhm.
going through something that you don't like and pushing yourself and accomplishing it.
Wow.
That's one reason why I hate running on a treadmill. I get
Okay.
bored, I'll turn it off, I'm done. But if I'm on the street and I run 4 miles, guess what? I have no choice but to run 4 miles back.
Fuck. Yes.
And then there's that accomplishment. Um, so Death by 5K, scrolling through Facebook, and it just seemed interesting to me. Like, okay, this looks like a pretty cool challenge. And I presented to some other people and they got on board and we ended up doing this across a whole bunch of us. And what it is, it's a 5K, 3.1 miles. You run one every 2.5 hours, 10 in a 24-hour period.
Yep.
So it's a heck of a challenge. You're running throughout the night. You're fighting your sleep deprivation and trying to motivate yourself. You're dealing with your muscles going from hot to cold to hot to cold, so you're getting cramps. Um, but when you're done, it's an accomplishment. 31 miles throughout the night. I mean, you can't beat that.
I think it's worse than running. For me, it was worse than running the 100 kilometers with Coach Alrod because you're stopping and slowing the whole time. And that was just brutal, absolutely brutal. But we didn't suffer for nothing. You created something to link it to being able to give back to the community, didn't you?
I did. It's hard sometimes to figure out a purpose. I've been very fortunate. I feel like I have two purposes that are just, outside of family
Mm.
that are just at the forefront in my life and have helped centered. In that process, we did as a fundraiser. So the idea was twofold. So the group of men I was with were part of this one society and were broken up into different groups. And it was which group could bring the most people to the run
Yeah.
and which group could raise the most money.
Hmm.
And the first time we did, we raised money for Vets for Child Rescue. We
Yes.
raised over $15,000 for them, which is a phenomenal organization, combats human trafficking, especially with children. And
Amazing.
it's spawned onto some other events. I think last year we did COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors. And this past year we just did BACA, which is another phenomenal organization,
Yes.
Fighters Against Child Abuse.
So it sounds like to me that you have a soft spot in your heart for children and you want to be able to really ensure that they'll get looked after. That's a commendable, very commendable thing to do, man.
Well, if you notice, I said I had two kind of priorities outside of family.
Yeah.
My current position in law enforcement is a school resource officer.
Oh wow. Okay.
So this is my third year. Um, Due to everything I've done my first 2.5 years, being there for the kids, trying to promote their safety, they've actually made me a corporal. So I'm actually
Phenomenal.
13
Congratulations.
schools.
Wow.
So that's why I kind of shaved the beard recently. The gray was coming out too much.
Well, you look about 10 years younger, so I would say you're about 35 right now, so we're good.
But yeah, like I said, I'm over 13 schools. I'm constantly coming up with ways to engage them and making better choices, being safer. Most people look at law enforcement and they think, oh, you're just here to arrest me or issue
Mm,
citations. Backtracking when I first got into law enforcement, I actually read a study that the FBI put out. It was a 10-year case study on felonious assaults on law enforcement. And within that study, it talks about how most juveniles, their first contact with law enforcement is a family member being arrested or cited. At that point, I knew in my career I wanted to find a way to change that image.
right.
You do a business check through, say, Walmart, and
Mhm.
you get a kid that's standing in the shop cart not listening, and you have the parent say, you need to sit down and listen, or he's going to arrest you. I hate that.
Right.
You are teaching your child to run from me.
Right.
I want them to run to me. If they need
Right.
help, they're scared, whatever it is, they need to learn to run to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So even on patrol, I've always made it a goal that if I saw children out, I would try and say hello. I let them get in the squad car, turn the blue lights on, and things like that. So now that I'm in the schools, I'm having a huge impact. For some of the kids, I may be the only father figure, maybe the only disciplinary they've ever had, or role model that they could look up to.
Yes.
And I always tell them, on patrol, my goals were different. And
Hmm.
here, obviously, with today's society, it's their safety, security. Second, it's to guide and mentor them
Mm.
as young adults or young children becoming young adults into adulthood. Then my third is arrests and citations. And I will say this, every student I've come in contact with that I've had to do an arrest or citation for, the following day they've came up to me, shook my hand, and said, I'm sorry I put you in that position.
Mm.
So, I mean, to me, that's huge. They're
Yeah.
realizing the consequences of their actions, that
Yes.
I'm not out there to just build stats or something.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're looking out for them, but I think it's also because you approach kids with the same energy as they have, right? You've got this youthful energy about you that gets them to relate to you, but also to look up to you because you're epitomizing that I am the person that is here to safeguard you, to guide you, and to essentially, if I need to, discipline you. But that's a good thing, and you're planting the seeds of letting other kids that want to be cops now want to be aspire to be cops because of the fact that you have been such a role model for them.
And honestly, I hope I have inspired some to join law enforcement. Um, like I said, it's a rewarding career,
Mhm.
but if you're looking for that career for money, you're in the wrong line. Like I said, the rewards, the benefits, like for example, this past weekend, uh, well, the high school I started with, they just had their prom, and I don't know. I mean, it's just amazing to see these young kids and know that the future ahead of them is boundless
Yes.
and they can do whatever they want. And I'd like to believe I had a little part in that inspiration in keeping them on track and, not ending up in the back of my car wearing bracelets.
Precisely, precisely. Which is the end goal is to steer them away from that at the end of the day and to be valuable members of society. That's the one thing that I look at the culture over here and it's so against law enforcement instead of going how can we support them so that they're not that they can be more like the Dutch cops and not have to do as much? So you guys can ride around on bicycles all day and just like chill with these massive cars, right? That would be a much better society if we just well, I was raised with a couple of smacks, right? If I stepped off the line, the teacher would smack us, and then we get home and the mom would smack us, which is why I kind of have the straight and narrow head around me. But but the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I firmly believe in that. And yes, it doesn't have to be a smack. Other people are different from other people, but for me, being the hard-skinned person that I was, I needed a smack every now and then, you know?
And that's one thing I think a lot of our schools are missing. It's actually two things: discipline and God.
Right.
With everybody understands the concepts of right and wrong,
Hmm.
but I think without understanding God, you don't understand the moral consequences, and that is, I think, what guides our behavior.
Hmm.
With the moral consequence as well as the discipline, you're getting it on two ends. Now you're getting the discipline, and it's more like there's no spankings, there's no phone calls home, and then when you get home, you're going out to a tree and getting a switch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, play on your iPad. You get no TV, and you're off school tomorrow because you got suspended. Good job.
Right.
Okay, so I get to play on my iPad all day.
Hey, yeah.
So I think the lack of discipline and the lack of God is, I think, the biggest problems in our school system.
Agreed. Agreed. I preferred the smacks from my mom over the smacks from my dad because he would first quote scriptures and take you through the whole process of why you were wrong and then give you a smack. And that's a lot worse because it used to take like an hour.
Build
So,
up the anticipation.
yes. Okay, we retracted a little bit. Going back to your story, sir. So you went through a troubling time, you became the law enforcement, and now you're changing people's lives. What else has led to cultivating that in you? Obviously, you're a man of God. Has that, how has that influence and how has that come into your influence? Because a lot of people, like myself, I was raised in a church, kind of detracted away from there, and then found my way back to it after finding you guys.
Well, it's actually interesting you say that. In my household, I actually grew up with two of the most dominant monotheistic religions under one roof.
Okay.
And I was raised as Episcopalian. I'll come back to that. And I'll just say Episcopalian Christianity as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer. A lot of the different sects of Christianity, whether it be Protestant, Lutheran, Episcopalian, it's all internal political conflicts that cause a separation.
Yes.
In At the core, we believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
So I'll just classify it as Christianity in the general term.
Hmm.
But my mom was Episcopalian and my father was Muslim. So I've actually,
Wow. That
and
is
then my neighbors were Jewish.
wow.
I've actually been to the synagogue, I've been to the mosques, and I've been to the Episcopal Church. It wasn't until I turned 13 that my mom said, "All right, Alan's 13 now. I have two older brothers. What do the three of you want to do?" And my mother left it our choice.
Right.
So my brothers and I all got baptized at the same time when I
Okay.
turned 13.
Wow.
So like I said, I had been to the mosques with my dad. Um, I never really learned Arabic or my dad's language, Bengali.
Hmm.
Um, so when I went there, I didn't really know what was happening, what was being said. Um, for me, I was hanging out with some kids that were my age that I liked hanging out with, and ate some good food after their prayer service.
Right.
Um, but I know it made my dad happy going with him. I think he kind of wished he could have exposed me to an understanding of his religion. Um, I have read like a translated version of the Quran,
Hmm.
and to me, there's a lot of parallels to the Bible.
Yes, sir.
So, but no, Christianity, I served at the altar, Thurifer, Crucifer, MC. I remember the first time I had to do the readings. Everybody's going through service. My godfather, Father English, asked me if I would do it because the person wasn't there. And I told him I would. So everybody's, we're singing the hymn and everybody's looking around like, okay, where's the person that's going to do the first reading? And everybody's looking around the church like, okay, he needs to be up there already.
Right.
As the hymn's coming to a close, I just step forward. And then I didn't look at my mom or anything like that, but my mom's like, she said her mouth dropped, eyes bugged out. She's like, "Oh, don't let him mess it up. Don't let him mess it up." But honestly, my biggest fear, if you've ever read the Bible, there are some tough names in there.
Yes.
So my biggest fear was to make sure there's none of those tough names in the reading. I got lucky, there wasn't. So, um, but yeah, so I've always enjoyed growing up, you know, being on the altar, helping my godfather and stuff like that.
It's amazing that you had three religions around you that are so dominant,
Hmm.
and you were able to choose Christianity. Obviously, Jesus spoke to you, my brother. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. And so, so dial it forward a couple of years. How has that shaped you into the man that you are today?
Well, at the core, I think the lessons that are taught, it's the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Hmm.
Um, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Is there that hope and faith that we're not just, you know, here and gone and that's it? I
Right.
mean, I like to believe that there's more to that.
Mm.
And the Bible provides a lot of um plain and simple miracles that I mean, how can you deny it?
That's right.
You think back to as kids, you play the listening game where you whisper something in one person's ear, and by the time it comes back around, it's completely different than what you said.
Yes.
Well, here it is. You got generation after generation after generation for almost, over 2,000 years. It hasn't changed.
Right.
And back before the Bible was ever written, it was by oral tradition, and it never changed.
Hmm.
I mean, how can something for generations and generations passed by oral tradition be the one thing that never changed in this world?
It was
It's got to have
designed by God. That's why.
exactly. There's got to be something to it.
Mhm.
And, when it speaks to you, it speaks to you.
Right. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay. So where does your inclination to do such difficult things come from? Because I know that you're not a sadist, but
Honestly, I like the challenge. Um, I think it goes back to when my leg was broken. I was told I'd never run again.
right.
Um, so when I was in high school, just to decompress, I would, grab my Walkman, which for you young people, that'd be a cassette player that
Oh,
listens.
I used to have one of those. We remember we're still in the 80s compared to you guys. South Africa is far behind where you guys are.
But I had a 60-minute tape. I'd run for 60 minutes, flip sides, run back.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, it was a way for me to decompress. I enjoyed running when I was younger. Um, After I broke my leg and I was told I couldn't,
Hmm.
to me, it was one of those, yes, I can.
Okay.
Even in high school, college, you know, I was told, oh, well, you need to look at a trade school. I don't know if you're going to handle college. I'm not even sure if you can pass high school.
Well,
And, I graduated high school. I got my master's with honors.
that is amazing.
And mainly it was to be like, I can,
Yeah.
So with the running, I don't know. I like the challenge. Um, some people are a little more crazier. They want to climb mountains in the freezing snow. I'm a Florida boy. I like the warmth.
Yeah, but you're doing rim to rim, aren't you, pretty soon?
Well, actually, rim to rim to rim,
Right.
but it's warm.
Okay, okay,
Not
okay.
climbing a mountain and going down. Um, no, so yeah, in about a month and a half, there's a group of us. We're going to go from the south rim to the north rim, back to the south rim of the Grand Canyon in one day. So they say on average take about 18 to 22 hours. I think the route we're looking at is about 43 miles, and
Okay.
then I'd say give or take 14,000 feet of total elevation.
Jeez.
Um, it's a challenge.
Right.
It's again, it's just something I want to do to prove to myself that I can do it, and I guess do it before I'm in a walker and I can't.
Okay.
So
Okay. Life's too short to have any regrets. And like they say, the wealthiest place in the world is not Fort Knox. It's not the Vatican with all the art. It's the graveyard because people have all their leftover ideas, ideas, businesses, and inventions that they never brought into fruition. So you want to leave with no regrets. That's amazing.
Well, and to go along with that, all your wealth, you're not taking that with you, but the
Precisely.
impact you can have on people. Um, uh, Take for example, Mike. He, you know, hated running. He did
Yeah.
Death by 5K for the first time. I think last year he did 13 runs, one of which was a triathlon.
Yep.
I mean,
He's an
you
animal, a
you
beast.
have an impact on people, and it's that imprint you're going to put on them.
Hmm.
What is it?
Right.
I try to make mine as positive as I can.
Perfect. Okay. So going along with that, what are three things that you can recommend to our viewers to help them to impact people and society in general?
The first is to be positive. Um, there's, and let me backtrack by saying I am by no means perfect. Um, I've spent the last 3 years trying to rectify things with my wife. Prior to that, I always worked night shift. I was
Mm,
gone all the time. I'd go from one job to another, sleep for 4 hours. And she, for the first, what, 7 years, raised two kids on her own, like a single mom.
wow.
Well, that's no way to be a leader of a household, no way to lead your family.
Mm,
Um, so like I said, there's by no means am I perfect, and I don't try to be. Um, but it comes to this point where you've got to see what your priorities are and put them in line. Obviously, I'm putting my family first. I took the SRO job to be home more, and I mean, somebody asks me when I was at the high school, how many kids you have? 652. 650 at the school, two at home.
right.
I mean, and then my wife would say 653 because she counts me as one of her kids. Um, I mean, it is what it is.
I
But
can see
one
that
thing
though.
but one thing I learned working from job to job to job is if you're not positive and have a good attitude and
Mm,
you're just miserable, every minute's going to feel like an hour.
right.
But if you're having fun, next thing you know, oh, it's time for me to go home.
Right.
You know, so to me, having that positive outlook and not to be afraid to laugh,
Mm,
you know, with those two things right there, your perspectives will come.
yeah.
Because I think that's the biggest factor. Um, what do they say? It takes like 100 muscles to frown and five to smile.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm blowing that way out of proportion there, but I mean, a smile goes a lot further and has more of an impact on those around you than the frown or the
Mm,
like. I do have a natural RBF, so I mean, for me to smile, it's effortless,
right.
but the impact is huge.
Yeah.
My smile or my hey, how's it going could be the difference from somebody just having a bad day thinking of jumping off a bridge
Hmm.
to now they're smiling to somebody else, and
Right.
then that person's smiling to someone else.
Right.
Negativity goes, spreads like fire, but
Yes.
so does positivity,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest one, the main one.
Okay.
Um, I think the second thing is to know what's in your heart and what you want to do.
Mm,
Like, for example, being an SRO, I love it. I I would not give this up for anything. Um, the impact I have, I mean, that is a goal. That is in my heart. I'm following it. And let me tell you, every day I go to work, I'm not working. I'm enjoying myself. I
mhm.
enjoy my job. I enjoy interacting with the faculty and staff and the kids and, having that positive impact.
Right.
So, doing what you love and those goals that are realistic.
Okay.
Like in my position, am I going to sit there and, take an aircraft and go to the moon? No,
No.
you know, but can I have an impact? Can I improve myself and push the SROs that I work with to be positive and have that impact on the students like I have been?
Mm,
Absolutely. That is a realistic goal.
right.
And actually talking to my supervisors, that's happening coming up next school year. There's things that I'm going to mandate they do. And then as they're involved and they get more involved and they see the impacts, they're going to do it on their own.
Okay.
So that's how it stemmed for me.
Mm.
Last year, one of the reasons why I got made corporal, um, you know, the things I just did for the students. I had a mock crash. I had different people there talking about, making better choices, saying no to drugs, slowing down their speed, wearing their seatbelt, not drinking and driving. The effects I've had and the impact I've had has just been profound.
Wow.
For District 3, I got an award for my efforts in teen safety. Well, District 3, it comprises of something like 12 or 15 counties. And
Wow.
and I got the award.
Wow.
I got SRO of the year. I mean, I'm just pushing myself and the students to be better.
Mm.
Because I tell them, I want to see your kids in this school.
Yeah.
If you do dumb stuff, that may not happen.
Happen. Hmm.
So,
Okay, so positivity, know what's in your heart and what you want to do, and one more, sir.
the realistic goals.
Realistic goals. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for this podcast, sir. I really do appreciate you coming on. It's been an honor to host you. There's a wealth of knowledge that I think people can take from this. Where can our viewers find you if they want to follow your words of wisdom and your funny antics? Because you are definitely a comedian by nature.
Well, to see the funny antics, you'd have to find me in person. Uh,
Okay.
I am on Facebook, Allan, Allan, Rashid, Rashid. Um, for the most part on there, I share the things that I'm doing, the accomplishments of the schools. So, for example, just shared a post of one of our SROs that did a color run with her kids. Another one had a guest speaker that was talking about their addiction and how they overcame it and how they are encouraging people not to try those things because they are hurtful and harmful to both
Mm,
you, your body, and those around you. Um, you know, we got graduation coming up, so we're about to take a huge 2 month well-deserved break. But next year, um, I think one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to, I got another mock crash coming up.
okay.
Uh, it's going to be huge. I don't want to blow the surprise for the students or anything because a lot of them don't know it's happening yet. But let's just say it's not going to be just my school.
Oh wow. Okay, there we go.
So,
Maybe a couple of the entrepreneurs can reach out to you to come and speak about what they do and how it can cultivate with kids. Because at the end of the day, you are trying to inspire the kids, so maybe you can get some more people to outreach with you to actually come and speak to them and go, "This is what I do. And this is what you could be."
mhm.
Thinking outside the box.
No, absolutely. There's a lot of teachers that ask me. One of the teachers at the school, Mr. Waltman, uh, phenomenal guy.
Hmm.
He teaches a JAG course.
Okay.
Um, don't ask me what JAG stands for. I just know he's encouraging people to do that, how to create resumes, how to interview, things that we were taught.
Yeah.
Well, they're not teaching that anymore.
No.
So the JAG course is teaching you how to fill out an application, how to interview, how to find those resources and, put those to your advantage. So absolutely. I'm sure his class would love guest speakers like that.
Awesome. Well, reach out to Coach Rashid online. I'm sure that you'll be able to hook you up, and at least that way you're giving back to the community.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you know where to find us. You can find us on Excalibur Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as Spotify, which you're probably listening to right now. Remember, guys, where there is a human being, there is a human story. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cheers.